morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Always Get Lost, a podcast dedicated to travel and life abroad. My name is Angela Carson. I am the host, and today I am going to be joined by a dear friend of mine, Valentine Aseyo. I met him about a decade ago. We'll tell you about that later. Valentine is a digital marketing and branding expert. He worked for Facebook for over 7 years, has been a VP of tech startups. At one point, he was trying to be a yoga instructor, and that fueled him to become an entrepreneur. Valentine is the founder of Matador Meggings, which is an athleisure brand for men. It's basically what they say is for fitness freaks and festival junkies. These are leggings for men, and they look fantastic. Valentine has lived in more places than I have. He is addicted to life abroad, just like I am. No. I'd say we're pretty equal. But today we're going to talk all about mistakes we've made moving abroad, about what fuels us to continue living outside of our home nation, tips on how to think about positioning yourself, your career, or if you're looking at the digital nomad thing, like how to get started living abroad. If that is something you are interested in and you want to hear stories about stupid, fun, and fabulous moments that Valentine and I have had over the years in different countries we've lived in, well, this podcast is just for you. So come on, let's get started with Valentine Aseyo. All right. Hello, Valentine. Darling, it is fabulous to see you.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing really good. How are you? What time is it there in Turkey?
I'm wonderful. I am in a little beach town in Turkey, and it's 2 p.m. here. And the weather is gorgeous. The sea is beautiful, turquoise, blue, all the shades of blue. And I feel blessed.
I am very jealous. I will tell you that. It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. All right. So we are going to talk all about how fun it is to live abroad, about what it's like kind of being an addict of living abroad, because neither of us, this is the first time you've gone home for any great length of time. And it probably wouldn't have happened if it weren't for COVID-19.
That's true. I've been living abroad for almost 15 years, sometimes on and off. And I could never imagine going back to my hometown, or like home country, better said, and live there for like 7 months. Because last time I lived in this country for 7 months, it was 15 years ago. But I owe this to COVID, and it was really good to reconnect with my stomping grounds and my country. And I feel really good.
Nice. Your Instagram has been so fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's been about 15 years for me as well. I left the US the last time when I was 33, and I'm 49 now. And I had moved to Spain that time. But yeah, everything would kind of have to go tits up for me to even think about moving back and planting roots in the US again. I don't know. Life just, it seems like there's so much out there to see. And I've already been there and done that in America.
I totally hear you. To me, it almost feels like, getting back together with your ex that you broke up years ago. It's really good in the beginning. It's familiar, and you're like, damn, I missed that person, but then after a while, you realize why you guys broke up in the first place. And you're like, oh, okay,
exactly.
Maybe this is not going to work. So I'm kind of feeling the same way. I left Turkey over a decade ago and traveled all around the world, lived in many cities in many countries. And now, thanks to COVID-19, I'm back in my country. And it's like getting back together with my old lover. And we had a really romantic time. It was very nostalgic, and I had a blast. But now I know why I left. Yeah. I'm ready to go back. But I have 1 month left in Turkey, and then going to continue my roadshow.
Nice. Where are you going next?
Next up is Miami, just so that we can hang out with my husband's family a little bit. Well, originally the plan was to move to Barcelona, but we said let's postpone it because probably it wouldn't be as much fun to be, stuck home in Barcelona because we're very cautious not to get in crowds. But instead, we decided to move to a beach town in Colombia. And only yesterday we found out that Americans are not allowed in the country. So we had
Yeah,
to
that's really
pivot.
putting a hiccup in a lot of people's plans right now.
Exactly. So we had to pivot our plans, and then we decided to move to Mexico in 2 months. The good thing about being a digital nomad is we just have one suitcase and a puppy. Definitely let go of the attachment to certainty and our plans. If COVID showed us one thing is not to make plans, like be more spontaneous. So we sold our place, we sold all our furniture. We're going to be switching cities and play by ear.
Well, okay, this is a crazy side note, but I remember the story you told me about all of your things that were moving over from Europe to India, or it was between two relocations of
Yeah,
yours, and the ship went down.
that actually happened just a couple of weeks before I met you in India. So the story was I used to be a very materialistic person and had this attachment to the things I owned. So when I moved to India for work for close to a year, I had this crazy idea of packing every single thing I owned and moved to India, like including, my all my shoes, my DVD collection. Again, this is a decade ago, so we used to have DVDs back then. Like my DVD collections, I even brought my I used to wear a lot of ties. Like I even brought my ties and suits and tuxes and things like that. I'm like things that I would never ever need in India, but because I had so much stuff, I shipped them with a ship and it sank. So by the time I arrived to India, I got the news that all my stuff went deep in the ocean. So I ended up in India literally with a backpack and a little carry-on with maybe like two t-shirts, short, and a couple of underwear. That's it. This is probably the best thing or one of the best things that have ever happened to me because I totally lost any attachment to things that I owned. Like since because it was such a liberating, freeing experience. Like imagine that you don't own anything in life. There's nothing to worry about, and it's just you. And yeah,
It is very liberating. I remember that story and just the blessing and the curse of it, because the personal things, photo albums and fun things like that you had were sad to lose, but the others, yeah, maybe it was a nice life lesson to learn early on.
the good thing is I actually had left all my photo albums and anything sentimental at my parents' place
Oh, that's
in their
good.
basement. Yeah. So I didn't lose anything, and all my hard drives and like external hard drives and things like that, I had them with me. I didn't want to ship them, so I didn't lose anything that had sentimental value or memories attached to it, like photos and things like that. But other than that, it just made me realize all these things that we own, like our apartments, cars, furniture, each object attaches an invisible chain to your soul. And yeah, you can move around, but there's only so far you can go because of these invisible chains. And like when you don't have anything that you own, you're just free to fly wherever
Such
you
a
go. And
liberating. Yeah, that's amazing. That's
yeah.
true. So how old were you when you first relocated? Was it for uni or was it for your first job?
I started living abroad in, limited periods of time for my education. Like I would do, student exchange programs, courses to learn a language. So that's how I started. I spent some time in France, some time in Spain, and then did my internship in Barcelona. So it all started with education and internship purposes, and then it moved on to professional. And right now it's just for fun. I move around not because my work requires me to do so, but because I want to. Now that I own my own business. I'm my own boss. So I have this flexibility in terms of location and time.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you and your husband move around together. It's been like that for about the past year, right?
Yeah. We made this decision together, and we lived in New York for 4 years. And New York, it's great in the beginning, but after a while, it's a little bit taxing. And the crowds, the pollution, the hectic lifestyle, it really wears you out. So I got to a point that I was like, I couldn't do it in New York anymore. I really needed to be in nature, surrounded by trees, close to the ocean. So we said, okay, where should we move? And we said, let's go down to Miami. And it was in the beginning of the winter in New York. It was in November. And, New York gets pretty gross in terms of weather.
Really cold too. Damn.
Yeah, so it was such a great idea to move down to Miami. It was 80, 85 degrees every single day, flip-flops. So great decision.
Nice. So it's definitely easier, I think, to move abroad when you have stuff, when you're with a company, because they move you and it makes life so much easier. When you're on your own, you couldn't really do the digital nomad thing with stuff, like you were saying. You really have to be liberated or park it somewhere thinking you'll come back for it.
Yeah, that could work. I also came to the realization that I had so much stuff, so much clothing, as a gay guy. Like I had so many shoes, and I realized 90% of the time I wore the same clothing and same shoes.
I do that too. I do that too. When I was on a 3-month trip, I packed all these cute shoes. I wore the same damn pair of sandals and the same 3 cotton sundresses the entire trip. It was such a stupid packing choice, the extra shoes. And
it's great that you came to that realization. And if you look carefully, you'll see that that's a reflection of your life in general. You open your closet every day, and then you probably pick up the t-shirt or dress at the top, but then you have maybe 100 different options. So coming to this realization, I'm like, oh, okay, I have hundreds of items in this closet, but I wear the same 20 again and again and again, at least like 80% of the time. So I said, okay, I can really let go all these things that I wear once a month, so I probably don't need it. So definitely streamlining your life, reconsidering what you really need and what brings joy to your life and what you need to hold on to is really important if you're planning on having this nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah, collect moments, not things, is one of my favorite little phrases.
Amen.
That I've lived by for quite a while now. So, all right, you and I have lived in a couple of different countries. I don't actually know how many countries you've lived in.
That's a great question. I was actually just thinking about this in the shower this morning.
Don't you keep a list? You don't have a list somewhere?
No, I don't. But I made the mental list, to prep myself for this podcast. And I said, okay, what does it really mean to live somewhere? Because I worked at Facebook for 8 years, and throughout my career, they sent me to places to, either open new offices, launch new teams. Like, for example, they sent me to Poland for 3 months, to Philippines, to this and that. And I'm not sure if all of those are considered living. So, and then this is what I came up with. In order for me to count a country or a city as, okay, I lived here, I think it needs to be more than 3 months. And I need to have a local phone number. It's silly, but I think it's one of those little things that it makes you local. Like when I lived in Poland or Philippines, I never bothered to, get a national line because I was there on a project work. But the moment you open a bank account and you get a cell phone number, then you're like, oh, okay, you're living here. Based on this, I would count, of course, Turkey. It's where I was born. I lived in France and Spain. I worked at Facebook in Dublin, Ireland, India, and the US. So these are the countries. And in these countries, I often lived in multiple cities. So probably like more than a dozen cities in these 6 countries.
That's amazing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So yours, because you've lived in the different cities, it's only what, 6 countries, but it's really 12 homes that
cities.
you occupied.
Yeah, definitely. It's like definitely more than that because I moved around in the US a lot, and then again in France, Spain. I lived in a couple of different cities. Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to ask you which is the most culturally diverse country that you lived in, but given that list, I'm pretty sure yours is the same as mine.
Yeah, I would say that. Turkey is a close second, but definitely India is one of the most culturally diverse places I lived. And Turkey can very well compete with it in terms of culture, architecture, music, cuisine, and all that. But India is definitely more diverse because they have dozens of different religions and dozens of languages. And it almost feels like each city or state is a completely different country. And if I'm sure you've been to different Indian weddings in different parts of the country, and that they don't look similar at all. Language is not similar. The food is very different. The religion, the language, everything is so different from state to state. So that's why I would say India is probably. And you lived in Bangalore, right? How
I
was
lived
it
in Bangalore
living
and
there?
you lived in Hyderabad, right? Where the Facebook headquarters was.
Yeah. I can't unfortunately say Hyderabad was very culturally diverse because it's like the Silicon Valley of India, and it was very business and tech based. I when I came to visit you in Bangalore, I thought Bangalore had a super cute charm to it and more culture. How was it living in Bangalore?
Yeah, okay. Well, for everyone listening, Valentine and I actually know each other because Valentine came to a holiday in the city well, the village in Spain where I lived for 12 years. And we have friends in common. And when I moved to India and then Valentine moved to India, our friends got in touch and said, oh, they connected us, I think, on Facebook Messenger. You two need to get
Hmm.
together. And you had just recently moved to India and you didn't really have a lot of friends and there wasn't a really active social scene in Hyderabad. And so I was like, oh, come down, come down. Because where I was in Bangalore, I happened to start a blog the first day I moved to India, and the blog became really popular. And so I got invited to all of these parties every week, and it was cocktail parties and events and this and that. And so for me, my life was just crazy hella fun. And Valentine's like, do, like not as much to do up in Hyderabad. So I invited him down. I was like, you have to fly down, come down, come down. And Valentine came down and we ended up having a wild weekend, like dancing every night, like hung over brunches the next day, and just a really fun time. But yeah, my experience in Bangalore, because I moved from Barcelona, and Barcelona is just, it's, it's not that culturally, I mean, it is culturally diverse to Southern California, but it's not an extreme. Like the
Hmm.
lifestyle is different and everything's a little bit different, but it's not so like an assault of the senses like India is. And I just I just remember the one thing I remember that I always really cherish is the first drive I was doing from the airport to the hotel where I was being put up for this new job. I remember it was like flights land in the middle of the night in India. They all land between 2 and 5. And it was just, the sun was just coming up. And I saw this group of 6 or 8 women in saris walking. And I thought that they were actors from a Bollywood movie or that they were, some fancy ladies group. And I remember telling the driver, I said, oh, look at how pretty they are. They must be actresses. And he's like, no, madam, they're housekeepers going to work. What? No, they're the most beautiful women I've ever seen. And yeah, it was definitely a attack of the senses in India. Good and bad. Like I was groped, attacked, like mistreated, people think that because all porn that they see is Western women, that they can say really dirty things to us and that we're going to react in a positive way. So where there was a lot of good, there was also just a ton of bad. I think maybe more so for women than men visiting. But did you have any kind of, is there anything like that for you? It wasn't, you didn't get any of that stuff.
I did not. Mine was different. I do understand what you mean, and where even though that's not my experience because I'm not a woman, I can totally understand what she went through, and I did witness some of it. I think being a man obviously saved some of that for me. I have a very fair light skin, so when I moved to India, I definitely would attract a lot of attention. People would stop me in a shopping mall and then hand me their 3-month-old baby to hold and to take photos. Like it's so funny. Like I would probably every 20 minutes on the street or in a shopping mall, people would want to take photos with me. People
Like you're
to
famous and a celebrity. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's because they didn't have that exposure. A lot of people would want to touch my skin and my face, and they're like, oh wow, you're like really fair skin. So that was very interesting. But they definitely don't mean bad. And it was interesting.
I would never live in India again just because I lost my personal freedom so almost entirely, where it's not really safe for women to walk around on the streets. You're not allowed to do certain things. Like I would want to drink some nights, but I wouldn't want to go into the center of town. And where I lived with the traffic, it would take about 40 minutes to get there. But there was this little kiosk with the shittiest alcohol that you've ever had. Like they give you a hangover stuff for sure the next day kind of alcohol. But I would go down there just to have a drink, like, and be out. I was the only woman that was ever there, and it would cause such a big stir. Like there's even photos of me out there at this bar and just the outrage that it caused.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. As a gay guy, it definitely had an impact on me as well. Like I had to limit certain behaviors, certain liberties that I had all my life in Europe or States or anywhere I lived. All those liberties were gone. At times, I felt like, wow, I need to go back to closet.
But you aren't.
You know,
if you don't know that you're gay, you wouldn't know that you're gay.
I guess so. I don't know, but
For the most part.
Also, yeah, I wouldn't go out of my way to explain that, and of course some people knew, some people didn't, but I had to think twice about some of my actions or some of the things I wore or
your floral rompers weren't.
Yeah, I probably would not wear floral.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So what has been your favorite home base then of all of the cities that you've lived in, either in the US or around Europe? And
I think I know your answer, and mine is very close to it.
Oh, okay. I would have assumed yours was Miami or, okay, tell me yours.
Mine is Barcelona, actually.
Oh, I would not have guessed that, but it's got, I mean, I absolutely 100% get it.
So there are several things that I pay attention to and I consider when I choose a city to live, or there are different factors that affect my satisfaction. And Barcelona checks all the boxes in terms of the lifestyle, the city planning. It's like this. It's a very old city, but it's so well planned, and everything is so beautiful. Every single building is an architectural masterpiece. Even like simple apartment buildings, and I'm always delighted with the architecture, and so that really made my experience. The food is definitely
Oh
important.
my God, the
Um,
food.
Proximity to the beach it's a must-have for me. The greenery.
The nightlife. My God, the nightlife in Barcelona.
Well, I'm too old for that.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I
I
haven't
was
been to.
I was in my 30s when I had the best, like the 30s to 40 to 40, 33 to 40 were my best party years.
Yeah, maybe you were having a second wave of youth, which is what
No,
that means for me.
it
It's
was the
about to
same
come.
wave. What are you talking about? Okay, we're gonna have a side conversation later when this is done.
um, but yeah, so I was actually really excited to move to Barcelona, and I can definitely see myself more stationary if I lived in Barcelona. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. Like Spain, I'm part Spanish, and so I can relate to that culture, the lifestyle. Even though they eat at 10 p.m. and I typically have dinner at 6:30 p.m.
Oh,
So
Grandpa.
that, yeah, I know. So that part is not very suitable for me.
Wait, what
But
part of you is Spanish on your father's side?
yeah, my dad's side is Spanish. Yeah, my last name Aseo means hygienic in Spanish. Actually, fun fact. Yeah. I'm Sephardic Jew. So basically, those are the Jews that were expelled from Spain. And this is hundreds of years ago. Like I have Spanish passport.
How many passports do you have?
Three.
Two? Three.
Yeah, I
American?
have. No, I don't have American passport. I have
Okay.
Turkish passport, Spanish, and Portuguese.
Okay. I have the one, which right now is not getting me in anywhere. I was supposed to be moving to
Exactly.
Malaysia next month.
Like Turkish passport didn't get me to many places, and thank God I have the Spanish passport that opens way more doors for me. But I did consider getting an American passport for its benefits. But now these days, looks like we'll be moving to Mexico.
It was great. I lived there. That was the first place I lived, was Mexico.
Where did you live in Mexico? Do you have any
In Puerto
recommendations?
Vallarta. Yeah, it was 1991, and I was 20 years old, and I had gone on holiday for a week to Puerto Vallarta, and I ended up meeting this boy because there's always a boy, and his name was Danielle, and I ended up spending the week with him. But oddly, we never slept together, which wasn't normal for me back then. I was quite anyway. But we didn't sleep together, but we had this romantic week together. I had gone on my first solo trip, and we would go out to like restaurants at night where there would be a dancer and one guitarist singing, and he wrote a song for me, and we just had such fun time. And then I went back to LA, and on the drive back to my apartment at uni, just like, what the hell am I doing? I don't want this life. I want that life. And so I ended up driving down in my Jeep Wrangler when I was 20 years old to Mexico. And I ended up working the summer, and it was paradise. It was paradise. It was before there were big hotels down there. Now there's like one of the beaches where I used to go, it used to be a deserted beach. And now there's a St. Regis and a Sheraton. But I had so much fun, and the food and dancing till 6 a.m. and I don't know, tacos at midnight was really fun. I learned how to drink tequila too, which in America we just shoot it back. We do shots of tequila, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought that that's how you drink tequila, but
How
it's
do you drink
actually
tequila?
you sip tequila. So it's kind of like a whiskey or a brandy or a cognac, or it's when the tequila is a nice tequila in Mexico, they sip it. And I remember it was just so sexy how he was teaching me all of these amazing things. But yeah, it didn't work out, which is
Wow.
fine. It was a fun summer.
That's what I like about living abroad or being a digital nomad, because every place you go, you keep collecting more and more memories, and you meet new and interesting people, and you live life through them. You live almost like their version of life. Like when I lived in the US for 7 years, I lived an American life.
What is an American life? Tell me what an American life is.
Yeah, so when I lived in the States for 7 years, I lived an American life. And that's in every aspect of life, right? The places that you go, what you do after work, the things you talk about with your friends, or the what you do for fun, what you do on weekends. It's the American way of living. And then when you go to elsewhere, for example, let's say I moved to Barcelona, my life was completely different. The way I acted was different. The way I went to work, the way I dressed, the way I thought, the topics that I talked with my friends, the way I had fun, it's completely different because every country offers, or even every city offers different things. When you die in the city you were born, you rob yourself from the experience that you could have had elsewhere. And sometimes it may be difficult if you're married with kids, or if you have an attachment to a certain city. But even if it's for, 3 months, especially with COVID, I think the best thing, I mean, there's no best thing about COVID, but if I were to think about one positive thing about this pandemic, it's pushing us to rethink how we live, and pushing us to reconsider if we really need these office spaces. Can we work from home? Can we work wherever we want? Do we need to be physically in one place to perform? And I feel like more and more people are coming to understand that the answer is no. Like, you could have the same exact job in the same company, but be wherever you want. Time difference sometimes makes it more challenging, but if you have, like, I know, 2, 3, or 4 hours of time difference and you're willing to adjust your life, that will definitely work out.
Yeah, the time difference thing does make a difference. When I was deported from India the second time, I always love saying that. I was fully expecting to move back to India when I had these problems with my company hadn't paid my taxes properly, and I ended up being penalized and deported from the country over this administrative paperwork issue. And I fully thought I would be going back. So I maintained the same client. I had just started up a brand new startup company. And so I was keeping on. And I would start work around 8 p.m. in California. I'd work all morning, all through the middle of the night. And as my parents were getting up at 6:30, I would go grab a glass of wine. They'd be having coffee and breakfast. And that was that. It was to stay working on the business side. Yeah, when your market is on the other side of the world, does pose challenges at times. Or if you have clients and you have to do, important clients, and you have a 4 a.m. conference call, that can suck, but the benefits still outweigh the tethered life someplace that isn't fulfilling your dreams.
It really does. You're so right. And that's precisely what my husband and I are experiencing right now, being 7 to 10 hours away from the US. And I came to realize that time difference makes more impact on your life than the distance to your clients. And that's another reason why we want to, move to Europe or Latin America, so that we're at least a little bit closer to US. Right now, we had to shift our lives. So basically, early mornings, we may have some calls because, California is still awake. And then after that, we have late morning, all noon, and early afternoon. We have it pretty relaxed in terms of, like, everyone is sleeping. So we can actually get in the zone and crunch a lot of work without any incoming traffic. And then after 4 p.m., calls and meetings start again. It's challenging, but if you're willing to adjust your life and rethink your schedule, it definitely works out. Like, for example, we have a PT come over at like 11:30 a.m. in the morning. Like, I would never be able to do that if I lived in the US and worked at a company, because I would be working in an office.
Yeah.
But I realized, you know what? working out at 11:30 a.m. It's actually pretty good.
Nice.
So I actually wanted to ask you, because you live far from home right now and then you lived in all these different places. What do you think the hardest part of living in a new country?
I think I've been finding that out more as I've gotten older because when I was younger, I would move to countries like Mexico or Spain and I'd have a bar job and I'd hang out at the beach and you make friends really easy. And as I've gotten older and started moving to new countries, it is a bit more difficult to make friends. And I think people, as we get older, we're a little bit more set in our personalities as well, and a little bit, well, it just seems easier to get on with people when you're younger
Mhm.
than when you're older. And I've definitely found in this latest move to Indonesia, this has been the most challenging of my life because I've moved to an island that I kind of thought was going to be like living in Ubud, but
Mhm.
really there's just a handful of expats. And it's been really difficult to make local friends because it's kind of a tiny island. And I've felt really alone. And in the past, I've been here almost 1 year, and I made one good friend. And she's had 3 people in her family in different countries die from COVID-19. So she and her husband are on complete lockdown with no visitors. So literally since March, I have been completely alone and isolated in my apartment. I've had this situation in Hong Kong. I didn't really make great friends. And I find that my mental health, which then affects the physical health, really starts to it starts to eat away at me. And the isolation lately, especially since I have this friend who I think is a good friend on the island, but I can't see and we don't really talk much. And it's just, yeah, I feel really, really alone. And I think I'm quite an outgoing person, generally speaking. So I don't have any problems making acquaintances, but it's the making friends that I find a challenge more and more as the years go on. And I've really, the past few years, I have had moments where I've struggled because it's just the isolation. And with me not having been in a relationship since like 1995, I had one guy in India for a few years, but we were on the down low because he couldn't tell his parents. And, it was just you know who it is. So I think the feeling alone lately over the years has been catching up with me. And just that feeling that I need to be more mindful of my mental health and doing things to keep me out of internalizing so much.
That's a really good point. I totally get that it may get lonely at times. I had a big social circle when I lived in New York. And that's actually was one of the reasons why I wanted to leave, because I felt like I wasn't mindful. I was always trying to get to places and meet people, and my social calendar was always packed, which was great. I'm so grateful to have amazing friends and connections in New York, but it got really exhausting. So I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to move down to Miami. I know a handful of people. I really want to be on my own, work on my mindfulness. And that was great. It was a good social detox. I actually cherished being on my own.
Did you live in New York the longest of any of the places?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
think so.
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I lived there for 4 years. And so going back to Miami, I wanted to have this social detox and wanted to move to a city that I could be on my own, like just me, myself, and my husband, and my puppy, sitting on the beach meditating. That's the life I aspired to have. And it was amazing in the beginning. And then the lockdown began. And of course, it was mandatory isolation. And I had that sense of loneliness. I feel so grateful that I a loving husband with me, but that was pretty much it. I was away from my friends, away from my family. And I'm an entrepreneur. It's a one-man show. So an entrepreneurship is a very lonely road as well. Like a lot of people, they continue to work remotely, but they still maintain a big team. So throughout their day, there's collaboration. Exactly, there's collaboration, and I love teamwork. I perform best when I'm in a big team, collaborating, partnering with other people. So, and then fast forward, I moved to Turkey right before the borders were closed, and we've been living here for 7 months, and I have zero friends in Turkey other than a handful of friends who would come visit me for a day or two every now and then. So most of the times it's just my little family. So I totally hear you. It may get lonely at the time.
All right. So in 1 minute, 2 minutes, give everyone listening your best advice for someone who's looking to live abroad, who hasn't done it yet. They're looking to do it. What's some words of wisdom you can impart to them? Do you want me to go? Do you want me to go first?
Let me collect my thoughts.
Okay, I'm going first. You think of yours. So the best advice that I can give is honestly to start thinking beyond your current job and start thinking of how you can be of value to a company in a foreign land. So for me, I've always worked in digital marketing, communications, and branding. And you wouldn't think that someone would want to spend a lot of money to pull someone like me over to live in a foreign country. It's very expensive. But I highly specialized with technology startups, and I spoke a foreign language. And so for me, I was able to get jobs and move to countries because they wanted someone who had diverse market experience, who had language experience, who was a native English speaker, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that when you're trying to think about living abroad and you want something stable, like a proper job in a country, not just to be a digital nomad, which is a little bit riskier for people, I think, you really just have to think about how can I add value and start manipulating your CV and certain things that you do to show domain experience, to show market experience or expertise, and try and learn a second language before you start, because that will take you so far.
Definitely speaking the language helps.
Sum up the biggest piece of advice that you can share to someone.
The most important thing is that you have an open mind, an open heart, and open arms to whatever comes your way, and get rid of all the attachment to the past. A lot of people are afraid to move abroad because they think that that's their forever decision, which is not. If it doesn't work out, you can go back and move on with your life as it was before. Just be willing to have an adventure, be willing to do things in a different way. And don't forget, your old life will always be there waiting for you. This is not a permanent decision. Yeah,
I think that's great about the having an open mind, because one of the things that I still struggle, I get a little judgy sometimes with certain things, and I have to remind myself that I'm not right. It's just different. And there's so much when you go into a new culture. Like you were saying, Spaniards have dinner at 10. Even when my daughter was a little girl, she didn't go to bed. I mean, she would have her dinner a little bit earlier, but it was really late. Like kids don't go to sleep until 10 p.m. in Spain, where in the UK, they go to sleep at 6, 7 p.m. And it's just, there's so much that's different, especially when you move someplace to like India, like we did, where everything is night and day different. And it's not right or wrong. It's just different.
It's just different. My husband is American, and he's been living in Turkey for 7 months for the first time in his life. He's been to Turkey a couple of times prior to that, but like for a week or two. So he had an idea, an understanding of the culture, but definitely not a lot because he was just a tourist in this country. But now he literally moved here been living here for 7 months, and
Grocery
pretty much
shopping and
every single thing is so different. He feels like he lives on a different planet.
in a magical
And
land. It's exotic.
and it's exotic, and I have so much respect and appreciation for his willingness to understand. And if he can't understand, he'll accept. He won't try to change people. He won't show any dissatisfaction. It's just the journey that he's living in. And yeah, just be willing to try new things.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right. So,
Awesome.
last and final question. If you could live anywhere in the world right now for a year, what country or what city would you like to move to?
That's a good question. There are so many. I have so many places on my list.
Yeah, there really are so many.
Yeah. But most of my list these days is all about Asia. I'm going to say Japan. And then definitely I want to spend some time in Korea as well, and some other Asian countries. But I've always had a fascination for Japanese culture. Not only their food, but the way they, interact with each other, their customs and weird little habits, and the way of living. It's just fascinating to me that to me it feels like a completely different planet. So I would love to experience that, and then maybe like live in Japan for a couple of months, and then move to Korea for a couple of months, and then maybe China for a couple of months. But I definitely want to spend a year or two on that part of the world.
Okay. Well, when you do, you have to come and visit me, whichever country
Of
I'm in.
course.
All right. Well, hold on to your hats because mine is Japan too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Why
And
is that?
I had written mine down beforehand. So when my daughter and I needed to leave Spain when the economy crashed in 2008, Japan was one of the 7 countries we wrote down as places that we would want to move to. And I had tried to get a job there. I tried for years. And they just, if you're not Japanese or you don't speak fluent Japanese, it's basically impossible to get a job in Japan. But now that I'm I'm not a digital nomad, I'm location independent. So now that I'm location independent, I would love to spend a year there. My God, my YouTube channel would just be, could you imagine the heaven every week with some amazing adventure in Japan, from the culture to the food to the backdrops and the mountains and the seas and the islands. Just looks beautiful to me. Okay.
Beautiful. Maybe we'll live in Japan together.
Oh my gosh, that would be so much fun.
Well, next year, should we say when the pandemic ends, maybe like in 2 years?
We
Should we
meet
say
there.
2023 in Japan, you and
Yes.
I?
Yeah, that sounds good. And then we'll hop down to South Korea and we are going to karaoke and have some fun as well. Well, it has been so nice talking to you and so nice hearing your
Great.
experience. It's interesting. We've lived in some of the same places, but had such different experiences too, which I think is what happens with anyone. Everyone has their own experience when they live abroad, but it's so enriching. You end up traveling so much more, even just on weekend breaks. And I can't imagine life any different than the life that I live now.
That's amazing. And I don't think there are a lot of people who can say that with confidence.
No, you can.
So, yeah, I can, but I'm not sure there are a lot of people who can say that. A lot of people get comfortable where they live, and they may have even forgotten what it feels like to experience new things. Like, there's this question that I love. When was the last time you experienced something for the first time? And if I were to, when was the last time you experienced something for the first time? And if I ask this question to 100 people on the street, probably one of them would actually have a good answer to that. And in my case, you can ask me that question every week, sometimes every day, and I will have a solid answer for you, because that's how often I experience new things for the first time in my life. And for average person on the street, they just get comfortable, and they don't even have this as a need in their life. So that's why I said there aren't many people out there who could say what you just said earlier about how satisfied you are with your life. So if you're listening to this podcast,
all the way to the end,
all the way till the end, I will leave you with this saying: when was the last time you experienced something for the first time? So think about that, marinate on it.
Can you please tell everyone how to find you and what you're up to? What should they be looking for? What are you up to? Tell us.
Yeah, I'm Valentine. I'm the maker of Matador Meggings, Meggings as in men's leggings. It's a new athleisure brand. I would love for your listeners to check out my website. It's matadormeggings.com. And it's basically leggings re-engineered for the male anatomy.
It is the hottest damn Instagram channel too.
Yeah, on Instagram, it's Matador, like the bullfighter, Matador Meggings, at Matador Meggings on Instagram.
Do you want to give them your puppy's Instagram as well?
Oh my God.
Valentine puts daily photos of his puppy Gigi on Instagram, and she's now living the high life in Turkey. It's very cute. Oh, there she is. Hi.
Yeah, it's she's Gigi Amoroso on Instagram. And
okay, go find it and follow.
My puppy has traveled more than many people that I know. She's living the jet setter lifestyle.
Oh, I have family members that don't have passports.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All right, my darling.
I actually gotta go.
Go. I will talk to you soon.
Come back and listen to the next episode of Angela's amazing podcast.
You are so sweet. Thank you so much, Valentine. I know how busy you are. We rescheduled this damn thing like 7 times. So it's so nice to have you. So nice to see you. So nice to talk to you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I love you.
I love you too. Thanks.
Bye.